that's a tough one. There were a lot of great conversations, and I think it just depends on where you are as to what you needed to hear. But I think one would just be, hopefully folks took away that, a lot of us have sort of that everyone has internal dialogue that happens, right? Where they are having that conversation in their head, and no matter how confident you are, you have those moments where you question yourself, or you wonder if you're different, if you're thinking something no one else is thinking, or you're experiencing something no one else is experiencing. But when I look back at all of the guests, and really if I think about anyone who I've coached or worked with, even in a consulting relationship, the confirmation I hope people get is that you are not alone, right? For those of us who are maneuvering the professional quote unquote world, and the parts of you that don't fit those archaic definitions of professionalism that you maybe vacillate in your head about, you are not alone in feeling that way. You are not alone in the questions you're asking yourself about, where should I land in all of this? How do I show up to this? I'm optimistic that we are seeing an evolution within the workplace and within the world about these definitions of professionalism and success. But my biggie is just that in the meantime of getting there, and I think we'll always have some vacillation, or I don't think we'll all land on this agreement of what it means to be professional. I'm thinking about some of the posts that I've seen on LinkedIn about when LinkedIn did the campaign, I am professional, right? And, it gave people permission to be themselves, and it gave some folks concern, like, where's the line, right? Of like how you show up. And so I think there'll always be that tension, right? But at the end of the day, just for folks to know that you're not alone in navigating and thinking about, how much of me should I bring, right? How far do I go with this? And I just encourage folks to really lean into being yourself. There are certainly scenarios and realities that you certainly need to be thoughtful in, right? But ultimately, when you are yourself, you are able to attract the right people, the right environments, the right roles, and ultimately the folks who are able to be more authentic with themselves, let alone others, are folks who are the most happy. So that was one, but I feel like there's like multiple lessons and gifts within that one big takeaway. I can't recall that there was advice folks gave, but I think the big gift that I received from this journey of this first season of Disruptive Discourse really is no matter how long I've done the work of coaching or consulting or even doing interviews like this, I never take for granted or take lightly that people trust me, with who they are and how they feel. And so I just was honored that folks were willing to show up and be themselves and be authentic and be vulnerable in sharing what they're feeling, what they've been through, what they're navigating. And I just am so thankful for the opportunity every single time I get it to get to know another human in a vulnerable and authentic way, because it's my favorite way to be, and it's my favorite way to interact with others. And so, it is just such a gift to get to know humans and their journeys. And it's such a gift to also hear people grow, and hear about whether I was involved in their journeys or not. Obviously, we interviewed several folks who I personally coached, and it's certainly an honor to hear how folks have been able to grow as a result of working with me. But regardless of that, there's nothing sweeter than seeing and hearing about someone being able to elevate from one challenge or season of life to another, and then to be able to reflect on those hard times and those difficult moments and have appreciation for what was a time in life that they probably weren't appreciating at the time because it was hard and difficult. And so that was the greatest gift to me, to just hear again, people's truth come out, because I believe that that's the gift the world is wanting more and more of, is people's truths. As I've confessed publicly in the past, I've never been big on social media. I honestly would not be on social media at all if I weren't a business owner, because I'm a very private person. I have disclosed that my own traumatic history of needing police protection for my safety because of behavior of peers at school and others in public has negatively affected me and caused me to really be cautious about how I put myself out there. Because when you get on social media, you are certainly signing up for that. And I'm aware of that, right? So it was scary at first. And, I think the journey continues of being comfortable. I think the bigger you get, it comes, right? We're not quite at the point where we've got multi-million of followers, right? So when that comes, I'm sure there'll be some fun times. And I mean fun as in not fun. But one of the things that has stood out to me about this, and this is very interesting because it really confirms for me the struggle that other people have, is that when I look at, as we've produced these episodes and they've been put out there, there's so many people. I really, honestly, I don't know that I've gone anywhere since we started this podcast and not had someone walk up to me and say, hey, I learned this, or I showed my niece that, or my daughter was thinking about this and I talked to her about something I learned in your episode. Yet I noticed how few people comment on or publicly state that they're watching the episode or that they took something from it. And so it really just highlights that much of the world is feeling, timid about how they maneuver social media. Even if they're on there all the time or often or semi-often, and they're getting something from it, they're very careful about what they say and don't say on there. Probably for the same reasons that I have been hesitant to be on social media, right? And that is, what potential judgment or what might I open myself up to, right? From comments or negative responses or what have you. Because the number, literally every single person who has come up to me or have talked to me privately, none of them have said that, right? In writing or in anywhere where someone else could see. And really, to me, that's the heart of why we're even doing this podcast, right? This idea that you need to be perfect and you need to be quote unquote professional or show up a certain way or show up as if, you have it all figured out, which is the craziest thing in the world. Like, no one has anything all the way figured out. But that folks are still just like me, maneuvering how much they show up and how they show up. It's again, the reason why we do this. And, I certainly feel more comfortable. I am inspired by this. As I have heard from people, it lets me know that this is needed. And whether I know it or not, people are watching and it is feeding them. So I continue to do it. And, there'll be hard times and there'll be times that I'm sure get some sort of challenging feedback, but I think it's worth it when you think about how many lives that we can touch when we come to spaces like this and say the things that others are thinking, but for whatever reason aren't able to say publicly. Yeah, so this season of Disruptive Discourse, I don't think it changed any perspectives I had on the archaic definitions of professionalism and success. It certainly reinforced them and really reminded me that when I think about, we intentionally had a pretty diverse group of interviewees, right? Including male and female, black and white, younger millennials, and at least Gen X. So I think a pretty diverse group of people from also different industries and backgrounds professionally, both nonprofit and for-profit, and obviously different industries within the for-profit world. And regardless of all of those differences, what I was reminded of, when I hope everyone else picked up on as well, is that every human at its core, we're all humans, right? And so we all need acceptance, we all need purpose, and we're all maneuvering life. And that's the reason why I focus specifically on professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs, is that there's this assumption that, if you're not living in poverty, right? And if you're not struggling with homelessness or housing or some of the really big challenges that are real and are faced in this world, that somehow you have it all together, right? And that once you get to a point where you're at least able to live paycheck to paycheck, because let's be clear, 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. All right. So congratulations. If you're at least there, right now, you're not dealing with all of the challenges that life will throw at you, which is totally not true, right? Just because you went to college, you have a degree or two, you are in a corporate role, or you're a leader, or you're a business owner, that does not mean that you're not still trying to figure out life. Like, life is hard, and they didn't really teach us that. I mean, we were taught to go to school, get an education, go to college, get a job, have a family, and that's, I guess, success, right? Well, I think all of us got to adulthood and it was like, there's a couple pages missing from this blueprint, right? Because how do I deal with loss? How do I deal with disappointment? How do I deal with having to water myself down when I really just want to be myself when I'm at work? All of those things. And so, this really, I think of all of the guests, they all at their core shared stories of challenge, shared stories of overcoming, and just shared at the end of the day that they just simply want happiness and acceptance. And that is the human reality that we're all vacillating through and figuring out every single day. So we're super excited. It's been a long journey. It's funny when I think about the journey of even producing this podcast, which all came out at once. But by the way, I was also experiencing life during all of this. So getting engaged, completing my PhD, a lot of stuff happened during all of this. Oh, and meanwhile, I was also running a business and launching and producing, things that will soon to come. And so super excited to finally, which, we hoped this would happen by now, but we're almost there, right? Of launching the new Joy Society community, which is actually an app that has goal setting and achievement checkpoints and guides all the way through, which is submerged within a community so that other professionals, leaders, and business owners can connect with you, the listener, the member, right? And we can achieve goals together. The statistics on goal achievement are actually surprisingly dismal. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier about the fact that we really weren't taught how to do life well. We were just given some simple steps of, I guess, milestones we should hit, and then I guess we have it figured out, right? But again, we all got to adulthood and we realized, holy crap, I'm not quite prepared for this. And so I think a lot of us have sort of just checked down and fallen into surviving life, which is, again, my whole existence is to challenge folks to do more than survive life, learn how to do this well, learn how to do life good, right? Be good at this thing, right? And so back to the goal setting piece, why are so many people unable to achieve goals? Well, we don't know how. And if you were taught a little bit of goal setting, it was probably at work. You probably know about SMART goals, right? And so maybe you did a little bit of that in your work setting, but you probably haven't applied that to life. And so the reason why we focus on holistic success is we know that a person who is living their best life is someone who is holistically focused, right? So there's physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, family, romance, social, career, finance, all of the things, right? And it doesn't mean you're necessarily working on all those at the same time, but what does it mean, right? And so our app will actually take you through the assessment of where you are within each of your 8 spheres and then guide you through selecting 2. We're limiting you to 2, right? Because we know people get all excited. I used to do this all the time and I couldn't figure out why I was failing at my goals because I'm trying to basically massively become a new person, right? So now I got goals and action items in all 8 spheres. And as a result, I'm accomplishing nothing because I'm trying to accomplish everything. So we actually guide people through goal setting for holistic success. And we become your accountability partner, not just for one goal, but really through the journey of life, because our system is designed to allow you to renew and re-up as you have new goals and as you get to new seasons in your life. So we're super excited that is coming very soon. We've already been testing it with a small group, and we've seen within 1 to 2 weeks, folks are already saying, wow, I'm getting more done. I'm happier. These things that I've been putting off for 7 months, I just got done as a result of joining this collective movement. So that's the big thing we're excited about. We're going to continue to produce content like we have here in Disruptive Discourse. Of course, we've still got Cup of Joy going strong and continuing to figure out how we can help people learn and grow and do that without boring people, right? Because I think that's been one of the challenges as well, is that these important lessons have been out there, but they're not necessarily in a way that anyone cares to hear about or spend their time on. So hopefully we've been entertaining, but also helpful to you all. That's what we've been hearing. And so you'll hear and see much more of that coming from us in the next months and years to come, for sure. The one thing I hope people take from Disruptive Discourse is the inspiration to build up the courage to be more authentic and be willing to take the risk. Because let's be honest, it's not like folks aren't aware of why they're not showing up as their whole selves, right? We know that there are risks involved. There's a potential to get fired. There's a potential to lose a relationship. There's a potential to maybe not get a client if you're a business owner. However, what I know and what others who have been willing to lean into this bold, courageous move have found is that what you may quote unquote lose pales in comparison to what you will gain when you find the courage to be authentic, to be vulnerable, and to be yourself. And quite frankly, when you don't do that, you ultimately facilitate a scenario where you attract people, places, things, roles, organizations to your life that sort of keep you spinning in this space of stuckness, of self-suppression, because now you've attracted people, roles, scenarios that require you to be the fake you, and that's what they're expecting from you. And so it really just becomes, if you don't lean into this, you ultimately contribute to your own struggle, right? Because again, once you show up as someone other than yourself, people are expecting that same not you to show up. And so when you, again, get bold enough and courageous enough to try this, what you'll find is that there are people for you. There are roles for you. There are organizations that you will fit well in, that you can be yourself, but you will not find them if you don't find the courage to begin to be more and more of yourself. So I hope that folks will be willing to make those bold decisions to move forward. And we welcome folks. This is not something to take lightly. That's why we have the Joy Society, so that we can support you on your journey of moving closer and closer to showing up boldly as yourself. And I promise you, it will be the best decision you've ever made. So that's the big takeaway that we hope folks leave with during as we wrap up this first season of Disruptive Discourse. And that said, I want to thank my producer and my backbone, everything, TC Carter, who has really just been willing to wander aimlessly with me and be patient with me as I find my way through social media, as I find my way through the metaverse. Remember, y'all, I am not a early adopter. So shout out to TC for being such a support and tolerating my insanity at times while I figured all of this stuff out. I also want to thank all of our guests for, again, being willing to be courageous, to share their truth, and, be willing to be the light. That's, if you've heard me talk before, which obviously you have as you've listened to our episodes. I went from a belief that I'm supposed to be changing the world to an understanding that I'm supposed to be the light in the room that I'm in. And so every guest that we've had, thank you so much for being willing to be the light in the room that you were in, and know that you have impacted other lives as you were willing to do that. And I thank all of our listeners and viewers for being willing to lean into these difficult conversations. Hopefully we're inspired. And I invite you all to come out of the internet darkness, right? And message me, DM me, connect with me. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear. And as we ramp up for another season and other activities that we're involved in, we would love to interview you. We would love to hear from you. And we would love to hear about how you're disrupting your own archaic definitions of professionalism and success.